What's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist and technically doing a Dark Magician Girl deck profile. So I'm really excited this week guys because you've been requesting this one a lot down in the comments down below. And this deck is absolutely insane and super fun to be able to play with. Now I've changed this deck a lot since the last time I profiled it and I'm really excited to show you guys all the new tech cards that I've included in this deck. So without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell in there so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards, like in your name description every single video, getting assigned cards in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month you're a patron. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Dark Magician Girl. Dark Magician Girl is a great 3 of in the deck because the entire deck revolves around getting this card out to your side of the field as quickly as possible. And she has a super simple effect that this card gains 300 attack for every Dark Magician or Magician of Black Chaos in either player's graveyard, which is a pretty good effect because we can actually boost this card up by quite a lot because we play 2 copies of Dark Magician in this deck, which is the ultimate wizard in terms of attack and defense. 2 copies in this particular build is just fine because you have so many ways to get to this card, and it's just a really good card overall to play as a 2 of in this build to go with your copies of Dark Magician Girl. We then play 2 copies of Illusion of Chaos. Illusion of Chaos is a great card in this deck as a searcher because it has the ability to reveal this card in your hand and then add a Dark Magician or a non-ritual monster that mentions it from your deck to your hand, and then place a card from your hand on top of your deck, which is a crazy good effect to be able to grab cards like Magician's Soul directly from your deck to your hand off this card's effect. And then play a single copy of Paladinium Oracle Mahad. Paladinium Oracle Mahad is a great 1 of in this deck to be able to use with your copy of Branded Fusion because we play a small Branded Fusion package in this deck to be able to get it in the graveyard to go in for some really good fusion plays, and also to be able to stack the graveyard with cards for Soul Servant to give you additional draws. But this card has a really good effect that if you do draw into it, you can special summon this card from your hand. And if this card battles a dark monster, you double the attack of this card all the way up to 5,000 attack points. And if this card is destroyed by battle by card effect, you can special summon out a Dark Magician from your hand, deck, or graveyard, which is a great effect. And then play a single copy of Paladinium Oracle Mana. Mana is a good 1 of in the deck. I only play a single copy of this card because I'm going to usually send it to the graveyard off Magician's Soul because it has a really good effect that when it's in the graveyard, that basically this card has the ability that when your opponent activates a card or effect that targets exactly 1 spellcaster monster you control and no other cards, when this card is in your hand or graveyard, quick effect, you can special summon this card. And you can only use the effect of this card once per turn, and level 7 or higher spellcaster monster you control cannot be destroyed by card effects, and if this card is destroyed by battle by card effect, you can special summon a Dark Magician Girl from your hand, deck, or graveyard, which is a really good effect, and this card is really good to send to the graveyard off your copy of Magician's Soul to summon it to the field. I then play a single copy of Apprentice Illusion Magician. Apprentice Illusion Magician is a great hand trap in the deck, and also a really good monster to summon to the field, because you can special summon this card from your hand by discarding any card from your hand, and when it's summoned to your side of the field, you get to add a Dark Magician from your deck to your hand. And during damage calculation, if your other Dark Spellcaster monster battles an opponent's monster, quick effect, you can send this card from your hand or face it on field to the graveyard, and then that monster you control gains 2,000 attack and defense points during the damage calculation only, which is a great effect just to give one of your monsters a little bit of a boost to go up in attack points. And then play a single copy of Timaeus the United Dragon, which is a good 1-up that has the ability to send a spellcaster monster or a spell trap that mentions Dark Magician from your hand or face your field to the graveyard to special summon this card from your hand. And during your main phase, you can fusion summon a fusion monster from your X deck using monsters from your hand or field as fusion material, including a spellcaster monster, making this card basically a walking polymerization, which is a great effect, especially on a 2800 attack point dragon monster that can help us go in for cards like Red Eyes Dark Dragoon and even some really powerful other monsters, which is just really nice. I then play 3 copies of Chocolate Magician Girl. Chocolate Magician Girl is a great 3 of in the deck because, as you guys notice, we're playing a lot of high level monsters in this build, so this card can come in extremely handy to help our hands because once per turn you can discard a spellcaster monster to draw an additional card, and then once per turn, if this card is targeted for an attack, then you can target one spellcaster monster in the graveyard except another copy of Chocolate Magician Girl and special summon it, and then change attack target to that card, and if you do the attacking monster's attack becomes half its current attack, which is a great effect to just half the attack of a monster and bring back a monster from the graveyard like your copy of Dark Magician Girl or Dark Magician, which is a crazy good effect. And also being able to discard those spellcasters that you don't need from your hand to the graveyard is a great effect to be able to draw an additional card. I then play 3 copies of Berry Magician Girl. Berry Magician Girl is a great 3 of in the deck because this card has the ability that if it's normal summon, you can add a Magician Girl from your deck to your hand. And this card works similarly to your copy of Maiden of Eyes of Blue for the Blue Eyes deck, with the ability that once per turn, during either player's turn, when your opponent activates a card or effect that targets this card or targets it for an attack, you can change this card's battle position. If you do, special summon a Magician Girl from your deck, except another copy of this card, which can be your copy of Chocolate Magician Girl or Dark Magician Girl, which is really helpful. We then play 3 copies of Magician's Rod. Magician's Rod is really good because you can normal summon this card to your side of the field. When you do, you get to add a spell or trap from your deck to your hand that specifically lists Dark Magician in its text, which is a great effect because the majority of the cards in the deck that say Dark Magician also usually say Dark Magician Girl, which is really helpful. I then play 3 copies of Magician's Soul. Magician's Soul is a great 3 of and one of the craziest cards in the entire deck, and it has the ability that you can send up to 2 spells and traps from your hand or field to the graveyard to draw that many cards when it's on the field. And when this card's in your hand, you can send a level 6 or higher spellcaster monster from your deck to the graveyard to activate one of these effects. Either special summon this card from your hand or send this card to the graveyard to special summon a Dark Magician or Dark Magician Girl from your graveyard, which can be the card that you just sent to the grave, which is a really awesome effect. I then played 2 copies of Fallen of Albaz for the small branded package we're playing in the deck to be able to go in for cards like Red Eyes Dark Dragoon or even Mirror Jade, which is really helpful. I then played a single copy of the Light Hex Steel Fusion, which is just a really good tech card in this deck to help us go in with Albion into a copy of Dragoon super easy. But this card comes in extremely handy to be able to use with your copy of Albion. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, I'm going to be playing a single copy of Magician's Salvation. Magician's Salvation is a really good card for Dark Magician Girl, because when this card is activated, you get to set an Eternal Soul directly from your deck. And if you normal or special summon a Dark Magician or a Dark Magician Girl, then you can target one of those monsters and then special summon out the other one from your graveyard with a different name, which is really good. So for example, if I special summon Dark Magician Girl, then I can special summon a Dark Magician from my graveyard to my side of the field. But if I summon Dark Magician to my field, I can target the Dark Magician and special summon Dark Magician Girl from the graveyard, which is really good because it gets both of them out on the field at the same time, which is a crazy good effect. I then play a single copy of Secrets of Dark Magic, which we're only ever using as basically a polymerization that's searchable from the deck. So this card is a great one of in the build. 1 copy of Magicalized Fusion, which is basically a Dragon's Mirror for the deck. That has the ability to fusion summon a spellcaster fusion monster from your extract by banishing the fusion materials listed from your field or graveyard, which is really good to help us go for super powerful monsters like Quintet Magician. I then play 2 copies of Dark Magical Circle, which is basically like a Pot of Duality, which is really cool because when this card is activated, you get to look at the top 3 cards of your deck and then reveal a Dark Magician or a card that specifically lists it among those cards and add it to your hand. And if a Dark Magician is normal or special summon, then you get to target a card on the field and banish it. Now I wish this card said Dark Magician or Dark Magician Girl because it would be very helpful, but for right now we just have this card, so it's a really good 2 of in the deck. I then play 2 copies of Preparation of Rites to search out the copy of our Illusion of Chaos, which is really nice to be able to add our Illusion of Chaos directly from our deck to our hand. And then 3 copies of Soul Servant, which is newly in Secret Rare from Legendary Duelist Season 3. Now this card is absolutely insane because it has a super awesome effect that you get to place a card from the top of your deck, from your hand, deck, or graveyard on top of your deck that is either a Dark Magician or a Dark Magician Girl, or specifically lists that card, or one of those 2 cards, which is a really awesome effect. And then it also has the ability that during the main phase, you can banish this card from your graveyard and then draw cards equal to the number of Paladinia monsters, Dark Magician, or Dark Magician Girl monsters with different names on the field or in the graveyard. With this card, you can actually draw 4 cards from the deck, which is really cool. And this card is absolutely an insane card. I then play 3 copies of Branded Fusion. Branded Fusion is just a really good 3 of in the deck that you can activate activate, go into Albion, send from deck to graveyard your copy of Light Hexsteel and Fall of Volvaz to go in for your copy of Albion, and then use Albion's effect to go into your copy of Dragoon. Or go into your copy of Lubellion and then make your copy of Mirror Jade, which is just really an awesome tech card in this deck. So that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get into the traps. So for the traps, I'm just going to be playing 2 traps, and that's going to be 2 copies of Eternal Soul, which is searchable off our copy of Magician's Salvation. This card is really good because every Dark Magician in your monster zone is unaffected by your opponent's card effects, and if this face-up card leaves the field, you destroy all monsters that you control, and then once per turn, you can special summon a Dark Magician from your hand or graveyard, which is a really good effect to just be constantly bringing back your copies of Dark Magician, especially with Magician's Salvation on the field, to be able to bring Dark Magician Girl to your side of the field with it, which is really good. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to be playing a single copy of the Dark Magicians. The Dark Magicians is a really good one in the deck that takes a Dark Magician or a Dark Magician Girl plus any other spellcaster type monster that you want to use. And it also has the ability once per turn, if a spell, trap card, or effect is activated, except during the damage step, you get to draw a card. And then if it's a spell or trap card, then you can set it to your field. And if it's a trap or a quick play, you can activate it the same turn it was set. And if it's destroyed, then you can special summon both a Dark Magician and a Dark Magician Girl from your hand, deck, or graveyard, which is really good because this card basically just defuses back into your Dark Magician and Dark Magician Girl, which is really cool. We then play a single copy of Dark Magician Girl, the Dragon Knight, because it has the ability once per turn during either player's turn, send a card from your hand to the graveyard and then target a face-up card on the field and destroy that target, which is a really good effect just to give you a pop in the deck. And then play a single copy of Dark Magician, the Dragon Knight. Dark Magician, the Dragon Knight is really good because it protects our face-up spells and traps, and it also counts as Dark Magician while on the field or in the graveyard, which is a pretty good effect to be able to bring it back with your copy of Eternal Soul. I then play a single copy of Master of Chaos. I don't summon this card all the time, but when you do, you usually win, because it has an absolutely insane effect that if this card is fusion summoned, then you can target a light or dark monster in the graveyard and special summon it back to the field. And then you can tribute a light or dark monster, which can be the monster you just summoned back off this card's effect, and then banish all monsters that your opponent controls, which is an absolutely crazy effect. I then play 2 copies of a Red Eyes Dark Dragoon, which is super easy to summon in this deck, and it's a walking negate that is just absolutely insane. It cannot be destroyed by card effects, and neither player can target it with card effects. And then if your opponent activates any card effect, you can just discard a card to negate it, and then this card gains 1,000 attack points, which is just really good. I then play a single copy of Quintet Magician. Quintet Magician is just a good one in the deck to make with your copy of Magical Eyes Fusion. It does take 5 spellcasters to make this card, but it must be fusion summoned, and if this card is fusion summoned using 5 spellcaster monsters with different names, then you can destroy all cards that your opponent controls, and this face-up card cannot be tributed nor used as fusion material, and also it cannot be destroyed by card effects, making this card completely immune to super polymerization and completely immune to kaijus, which is really insane that your opponent has to go through this 4,500 attack point monster. I then play a single copy of Lubellion. Lubellion is in here so we can go into a copy of Mirror Jade. This is really powerful to be able to use in this deck, to be able to just use Mirror Jade's absolutely insane effect to be able to just get rid of cards on the field, and it's just an absolutely crazy powerful boss monster. And then play a single copy of Albion. You really only need a single copy of Albion for how small the branded package is in this deck, but this card comes in extremely handy because it basically works like a miracle fusion that you're going to be using your Fallen of Volvaz plus either a Paladinium monster, which are light monsters, or your copy of Light Hexsteel fusion to step in your copy of Red Eyes Dark Dragoon, and then banish the materials from the graveyard to summon out another monster, which is really cool. I then play a single copy of Abyss Dragon. Abyss Dragon is a good one in the deck because it has a really good effect. This card basically works like Chimera Tech Fortress Dragon for dragon monsters, which is really cool because all you have to do is summon out your copy of your Fallen of Volvaz and then contact fuse into another monster, which is really cool. But usually I'm using this card if my opponent's not going into dragon monsters. I'm usually using it to send to the graveyard off of Mirror Jade because of its last effect that if this card during the end phase was sent to the graveyard this turn, then you can add a polymerization or a fusion normal spell from your deck to your hand, which can be Branded Fusion or Magical Eyes Fusion. I then play a single copy of Access Code Talker just in case we want to pop cards on the field. You can change it out for a Boral Sword if you want to, but it's still a really good card to be able to play in the deck. One copy of Selene because it's super easy to make Selene and then step into your copy of Access Code really easily. 1 copy of Dark because we can bring back dark monsters from our opponent's graveyard to step into the copy of Selene and then Access Code, which is really good. And then finally a single copy of Artemis for the Magician's Rod to be able to link away the copy of Magician's Rod and then bring it back later on. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you did enjoy it. It's a really fun deck to be able to play. If you guys have never played with Dark Magician Girl, the deck, it's super fun. It's a really cool deck to be able to play with, and it's just a really good time. So anyways, guys, this is DarkArmedDuelist. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell in there so you can become part of the notification squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.